Totality and Representation. It may be desirable to point out again that the scope of this treatise is only a moderate one. It intends to, to make investigations into the structure of the Toba Batak of the Tobanese belief in the High God, as well as it is possible in the present situation, and on the basis of the available material, it will not deal with the history of the origin of this belief. The physical complexes on which it is based are of no particular interest to us. However, the reader will repeatedly meet two conceptions in this work, which totality and representation. It is therefore desirable to dwell upon these objects for a while. The reader may be supposed to know that many so-called primitive peoples do not think analytically but synthetically. As a consequence of this mentality, the way in which things are experienced, no matter how large or small they are, is of a totalitarian character. The Toba Batak form no exception to this rule. They experience the cosmos, the community, the individual, etc., each as each as a totality. By this, we mean a unity of functionally heterogeneous entities cooperating for the sake of a totality, but which can only exist, can be conceived within and because of this totality. Let us illustrate this idea by an example. The Toba Batak conceived the whole cosmic space as the totality of under, middle, and upper world. In this totality, each of these three worlds has a function through which the harmony and the existence of the universe is possible. The elimination of one of these worlds would mean the annihilation of the universe as well as of the existence of each of them. Also, the cosmic order, which is inherent in space, is a totalitarian unity. No matter how large or small its sphere of operation is considered to be, it's always the unity of, according to the modern conception, conflicting powers which exclude one another. However, in the totality, they lose their individual independence and are reconciled. Life, death, oneness, and multiplicity, good, half-heartedness, and evil, etc., are no absolute but relative contrasts which presuppose and generate each other. The unity reconciles them. The attentive reader will arrive with us at the conclusion that to the Toba Batak mind, being a part of something is something quite different than to the modern mind. To the latter, a part may be an entity which has a character more or less of its own. To the former, it is always an equivalent part, as respect to the totality of which it forms part. In other words, a part itself is always a totality within an equivalent to a larger totality. Let us now pay attention to the idea of representation. Like other peoples at the Toba Batak, like the other people, like other peoples, the Toba Batak know the custom of subsisting a person or a thing by another person or thing belonging to the visible or invisible reality. In every modern state, we find ministers or ambassadors as representatives of the head of the state. This representation is merely on the political model level. No modern man will credit an ambassador with drinking excessively because this is done by the person represented by him, for this does not concern the ambassador in question. In Toba, however, where the complex of participating mentality prevails, the matter is looked upon from another point of view. Here, the dividing line between the representative and the one represented is so far that the representation is the same as identity. A man whose father is in debt can be compelled by the creditor to pay the outstanding amount if the debt is not settled by his father. Until until recently, such a man could be arrested when he refused to pay and be made a slave. In Toba, the village chiefs are looked upon as representatives of the high god, but in reality little is received of a representation in the modern sense of the word. The same applies to images and symbols. To the modern mind, an image of a symbol is never the person himself or the thing itself, whereas such is the case with the Toba Batak of a predominantly primitive mind. Whatever happens to the image of the symbol also occurs to the person or thing in question, no matter whether they belong to this world or to another. They form an essential unity.